series on creating a more intelligent pharmaceutical industry. It all revolves around how we standardize the information exchange with the regulatory authorities and how the industry can work better together. We have excellent speakers today to set the scene, make the introduction. In the first webinar. In the next webinar, we will have more about the pragmatic experiences as such. GVW as a company, we're a member of, myself, I'm a member of the ISO work group as well. And as a company, we're a member of the Pistoia Alliance, work together on these 3 webinar series. What can you expect? Introduction in IDMP and GSRS, the foundations, benefits, and practical implications of these standards. And we really want to get that across because IDMP is like setting a standard. The GSRS is like the technical implementation of it. The success of IDMP depends on the success of GSRS. So we try to create your awareness within the industry to find a way to manage this better into the future. So this is the first webinar on the intro. The next webinars, we look at the standardized substance descriptions, solving the implementation and integration challenges, global regulatory updates, and industry adoption. And last but not least, the pharmacovigilance through structured data. Next. So myself, I'm the moderator, and I'm working closely with Srindhi Ramachandran, our science service leader in our company, and Joe Albanese, our scientific advisor. We are all deeply involved in the Pistoia and in this subject matter together with many people in our organization. And we are very happy to have these speakers are lined up. Next slide, please. First off, Birte Nielsen. With Birte, we have already worked together on several topics within the Pistoia part, and I'm happy to see that she's taken on this challenge for the GSRS consortium. She will do an excellent introduction and make a case for the value. Christian Hay, I've been fortunate to been participating in the ISO TC215 Workgroup 6. The Workgroup 6 for IDMP. I got to know Christian Hay there, who is the convener, and herding the cats within that particular group. And I think the right person to make IDMP simple. So I think that's Christian's start today. And last but not least, we have Dr. Marlene Kim. She's been deeply involved for a long time already in the GSRS, and will be able to frame it for the audience. Yeah, we look forward to having the detailed insights that she can give us. Next slide, please. So in the back end, but those people will also be in the front end soon. We have additional panelists to discuss the questions. Today we have Marcel Hoefnagel, who participates through the Medicines Evaluation Board, CBG in the Netherlands. Igor, Systems Engineer with Beckley. Olaf Lagerlund with the Uppsala Monitoring Center, and Jean Gozak Fontaine from GSK. Both Olaf and Jean Gozak have pragmatic industry experience that we will address in one of the next webinars. And Marcel can, in the future webinar, will talk about the importance from a regulatory perspective. Next slide, please. So, why we are doing this, and these days already for quite some time I follow the discipline start with why. And as a person who is deeply involved in data exchange for decades, and I get landed in the life science industry like 20 years back, so basically half of my career. You start to realize when you organize the data well, from first test of molecule through drug development, through a drug product reaching a patient, you understand when you organize the data well, you have an impact on the quality of life. That is my why. That is how we work in GVW. I'm very fortunate now to have about 250 talents around me who constantly work together with the same purpose on the same why. And that helps us to get organized, to work how we do things, who we are working with, what we are doing, and getting the results. And the results is not good systems. It's not even the good data, but the true result is the impact that we can make on patients and hopefully on people by working together in this ecosystem. That's what I want to get across first. So thank you. And next slide, please. In anything what goes in the digital world, we talk too much about technology. I put it just upside down. I put people first, everywhere people first, and then take the data, then processes, and then technology. Technology should follow, it should not dictate. And I think we live in a time right now, we see technologies that give freedom to the scientists and the researchers and the medical world that we've never seen before. So thinking from the logic from people, data, process, and technology matters, and data also before process. We live in a world which is much more, I would say, patient-centric, data-driven. We in this decade, we can expect that the regulatory part will move from control by process to control by data. And it is exactly these type of efforts that are needed, the IDMP, the GSRS, to create a foundation for the digital world that makes it indeed possible to go from control by process to control by data, and that we arrive in a world that is truly patient-centric and data-driven. So people, data, process, and technology. Next, please. So it's all about making the data flow in the ecosystem. We've been mostly helping the industry, but it's very important to reach the patients, to be with the healthcare providers, make that connection. And obviously the regulators are there to protect, if you will, the safety for patients, etc. So there has to be a smooth interaction from life sciences with healthcare providers, sharing the data, informing, interacting with regulators, and then working together in industry, technology and standards bodies like ISO and Pistoria, where we all come together and work together to make that data flow. That's the environment I think we are living in, and we do it for better patient outcome. Thank you. Next slide, please. The key topic under the making this industry work is understanding what IDMP is on the one hand, identification of medicinal product. And I always say identification of medicinal product is not the true meaning of what's underneath. So today we have Christian Hay, who will talk about the cake that you see here and explaining that part. And then on the other hand, how it is linked to the drug substance databases. This originally has been created within the FDA as the GSRS by industry experts such as Larry Callahan, and standards have been written for IDMP, which 1,000 pages plus on how to get the data into those platforms. So it's an ongoing effort. And we need to work on that closely together and see the interface of stakeholders to IDP, to the technology, to regulatory authorities. And that is how we can enable regulatory data exchange in a much easier and smoother way. Again, for better patient outcome. Thank you. Next, please. The purpose of the GSRS consortium, I will not say too much about it. Peter will really talk to this particular point. We are trying to unite regulatories, pharma companies, researchers to strengthen GSRS. It's like a technology underneath that smoothens this collaboration, ensuring safer, smarter global healthcare, and hopefully faster as well. Next, please. It's important to understand the entire global health ecosystem, the research and development that's going on, the regulatory bodies where they are, manufacturing and distribution that happens all over the world, reaching the healthcare providers, insurance payers involved, but all together we are impacting the patients. We happen to do a lot of work in the United States and the European Union and India, but in the end, this is a global reach. It's very simply put, if I look at the health ecosystems in the places where I mostly come in India, in Europe, and in the US, at 40,000 feet, they're all the same. But when you go into detail, they're all different and they all have their own huge challenges in their own way. I think by being patient-centric and data-driven, we have the opportunity through IDMP and GSRS to really unite and arrive potentially at a true patient-centric data-driven ecosystem that will serve patients so much better across the world as such. Thank you. Next, please. So as first speaker, we have Birte Nielsen, working with the Pistoia Alliance. She's been involved in quite a few challenging standards already, such as laboratory methods and also now with the ontologies that are going on. So she's deeply involved there. She has a strong background in pharmaceutical analysis biotechnology, hence her involvement in the analytical method development. These are all data areas you will find in the GSRS. She has a Master of Science in Biotechnology Engineering, and she's from Denmark. And Birte, welcome, and I hand it over to you. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Louis, for the introduction and, of course, the opportunity to speak today. As Louis said, I'm Birte Nielsen, and I have been working with the Pistoia Alliance for the past 4 years now. I am going to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the Pistoia Alliance, as I am aware that many of you might not know the Alliance. So next slide, please. So I just have like a little brief introduction to who we are. We are a global not-for-profit member organization, and we were conceived back in 2007 and then incorporated the year later. And that was by representative from 4 different pharma companies, AstraZeneca, GSK, Novartis, and Pfizer, who met at a conference in Pistoia in Italy and then decided that there is indeed a need for this alliance where companies can work in a pre-competitive, collaborative manner. So that is really our mission. It is to lower barriers to innovation in life sciences. And within the alliance, we have a very unique framework that allows for this pre-competitive collaboration. And we develop solutions really to common problems. Next slide, please. You can see some of our members here. We have members across the entire pharma ecosystem. We have more than 200 members. That's pharma companies. It's supply and demand side. It's software and instrument vendors, technology providers, global value web. As Louis said, is a member, and we have been working with the team for quite a few years. As you can see, yeah, we have 17 out of the top 20 pharma companies by R&D expenditure. So next slide, please. So what we do is that we work under 4 different strategic priorities, and you can see them listed here, and all of them really boils down to data. And data is really the foundation for AI and digital strategies and sort of around areas about how do we manage, how do we maintain, and how do we consume data. So one of the strategic priorities is delivering data-driven value at scale. And you will see GSRS consortium, IDMP ontologies is here. Our members, they do face very similar challenges and problems around the management and governance and sort of the how-to for data management and governance. And this is not a competitive area. So it's a very, very good area and provides a lot of targeted and perfect use cases for exactly what the Pistoia Alliance do for pre-competitive collaborations. And a GSRS consortium fits really squarely in this strategic priority here. We have, you can see here, identification of medicinal products ontology, IDMPO. That's running in the 4th year now. And we have a few other ontology projects as well. The clinical trials one, we just completed a POC, and the CMC process ontology, we finished a POC and have now started a 2nd phase of that, and have a pharma general ontology as well. So of course we work to ensure that, you know, the ontologies, they link in with other ontologies and the work that we are doing. And in the next slide, please, you can, yeah, if you can click, I think there are some next, if you click next. Yeah, if you could just a bit more. Yeah, this one, one back. Thank you. So yeah, you know, we do work to ensure that that everything links together. So you can see, for example, the data ferry is very discovery focused, but we do span across the broader scale of the entire R&D, really showing the value across the scale of structured data. We always look for practical applications. We're not an academic group, right? You know, we are here to work with the pharma companies, including the software and instrument vendors, and we do try to look at end-to-end data. So anything, you know, enabling communication between the boundaries in organizations, because that's where we always see the problems, and that's where having structured and standardized data in things like ontologies, they really stand out. And as you can see here at the bottom, we have like overarching things that really pulls everything together. So for example, the guiding principles of fair data governance. So next slide, please. And how it works in the Pistoia Alliance is that an idea is submitted by a member company, and then we go out to our network of members to see if other companies have similar issues, and to see if this problem lends itself to a pre-competitive and collaborative solution. And if so, then we start a project. We define the use cases, have a clear problem statement, and then create this steering committee where the members then will fund the solution. And often after, we stay together as an expert community and have very good examples of this across the Alliance. So the idea about a GSRS consortium was indeed suggested by our members from both FDA, US Pharmacopoeia, GSK, and was really brought to the Pistoia Alliance due to the projects that we have been running, and you saw on the previous slides, in really managing collaborative data-focused projects, and also with the work we do with regulators. I already mentioned our IDMP ontology project. Here we are, that was developed to align with ISO standards on substance-related data, but we have worked with regulatory agencies, the FDA, on our in vitro pharmacology project, which was a project or still going to develop data standards and tools for in vitro bioassay, and how do you structure this data in your regulatory submissions. And this was a project we worked on with FDA and Larry in particular. So the next slide, please. So this is some photos from a recent workshop that we held in London, where we were discussing GSRS, the platform, and a sort of the value drivers for a consortium. So Marlene is going to come and talk to you about now about the GSRS system. So, but maybe I should say that it is a platform that is designed to provide a harmonized approach in managing your substance-related data. And it's really like a foundation for effective substance tracking. You can ensure consistency and transparency in how do you actually manage all your pharmaceutical data like this. So we have had this workshop where we had GSK coming to talk about how they have implemented GSRS and the business benefits that they see. And it was a really, really great workshop. Next slide, please. We sort of talked about, why collaboration between industry and regulators and the tech providers is really key in moving towards what GSK called a single source of truth, right? And how a consortium can bring these communities together sort of to serve as a platform, right, for this collaboration, to share like lessons learned when it comes to the journey on how you would prepare your organization to operationalize. So that was some really good discussions we had there. How the consortium can help to define a shared vision, right, and an industry roadmap where we have defined all the capabilities that should be developed collectively, and having this consortium, right, it's a very good way of helping companies to justify and build sort of the narrative they need in order to get support internally for implementing GSRS. So using really the consortium to help guide this change management strategy, help to justify and secure funding for this implementation. We talked a little bit about different approaches to incorporate some of these functionalities that perhaps is needed, and I can share that in more details. I think I'm coming back in the next webinar where I'm going to go into more details about some of the things that the consortium is aiming to do. But yeah, it's really about having a consortium to help define how we collectively could help shape, this unified vision for GSRS, sort of having paving the way, for a more globally harmonized regulatory system. So next slide, please. Yeah, so here you see the value having industry regulators and the tech to having the consortium to help, with the funding enablement, helping your organization with that journey, with different tools and assets that you could draw on, creation of a roadmap, and of course governance. So this is, we are still in the beginning of creating this consortium. The next steps would be to create like the governance documents, the project charter, an initial roadmap, and so on, and having a signing up of members and official launch of the consortium. That's really all I want to say for now. But if you want to know more, have a look at this review article we just published 2 weeks ago.
Thank you, Birte. I think this is the essence, and actually that what's there on the left, consortium value, industry regulators and tech, how it comes together in GS consortium, and there's so much needed to make that possible. That's also why we are having this webinar together, right, Birte, to create more awareness. And I think what you also said, and that came out of the workshop earlier as well, it needs funding and support. So we want to use this webinar series. So I say to all the audience members here, and this webinar will also be published, please reach out to Birte Nielsen for raising and contributing, hopefully, to funding and supporting of the consortium. Industry participants and industry sponsorship will go a long way to make this digital collaboration in industry a reality based on the efforts already put in here. So thank you, Birte, for putting this out there in this context. And with that, we move on to Christian Hay. Christian is the convener for the ISO TC 215, that is the health informatics standards, if you will, specifically for work group 6, coming from the pharmacy, but really moving in the end-to-end IDMP. Christian is from Switzerland. He's originally a lawyer. We won't hold that against him. He's been excellent in convening this particular work group for quite some time, and I've seen their performance, and it's just wonderful to see that group guided by Christian. Christian has more responsibilities in the healthcare space, pulling more societies, people, groups together. It's all about collaboration when it comes to Christian. So he's been leading the set of standards with IDMP, and right now there's a revision going on. And again, Christian is doing an excellent job in pushing that forward. So Christian, thanks for all that, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you also for these kind words. My next slide is already unnecessary. In the sense that you said that I'm a lawyer. I'm not from the, I would say, the scientific side of all these activities, but my task is to chair and organize, as far as I can, this working group in ISO. ISO is a very large committee. We have worldwide about 350 committees, technical committees. ISO is dealing with the size of the paper for your printing machine and the size of your shoes and I don't know what, but also with medical informatics and more specifically with medicines, business and pharmacy. That is our group. Can you go on the next slide, please? That's the one we can skip. I will not tell you the truth about my bagpipe. You go to the next, and I will give you now a few words about the origin of IDMP. Next slide. It is a need which has raised in the context of ICH. ICH is a worldwide organization. Can you go to the next slide, please? It is an organization which brings together the regulator and industry representatives, and they have developed a couple of things. You know, you have seen, or you can see on the camera. I'm not exactly the youngest man on the room. When I started to work in the pharma industry, the dossier for regulation of getting the marketing authorization, the dossier were something on paper, possibly on a pallet. And the first step was to transform or to add to this a PDF of just the table of contents. And that was one of the first fruits of ICH. That's about, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. ICH has the task to improve processes in the healthcare systems between regulator and industries. The journey started in 2001 because one of the statements made at that time was that pharmacovigilance is really poor. It's poorly reported. We have not so many reports, but we have also bad quality reports, so diverse. And the job started in 2001. ICH is an organization which requires unanimity of the participants to make a decision. And ICH, although they are issuing some recommendations, they are not a standard development organization. That's the reason why a few years later, and you can go on to the next slide, please, the participant decided to pass the topic to standard development organizations. We had HL7 because the US FDA wanted already HL7 being one of the tools to be used. We have SEN because the Europeans need to have a SEN standard to impose it. And we have ISO because that's global and that corresponds to many other country needs. So the three had to work together. And you see that job starting in 2008. And that was also when I entered in this working group. ISO and SEN, they have a kind of a partnership. Actually, we say that ISO is lead for IDMP, and SEN doesn't have its own pharmaceutical group. ISO TC215 has this, and this working group 6 is actually filling the needs of the both organizations. So that explains the two. HL7 is closer to the implementation. You have or will hear a lot about fire that comes out of HL7. And so we're closer to the implementation. ISO, and I will only say ISO from now on, is at the conceptual and logical level of the standards. Can we go to the next slide, please? IDMP is simple. Louis said it's simple. You see here we have a wedding cake. We have 5 international standards. Each of these, not silo, but it's for the purpose of the wedding cake. These elements are fitting in each other. And they have, many of them, a technical specification to provide more details. I will give you some information about that. We have one technical report, which is not illustrated here. It is in revision currently. And we have a technical specification to link the supply chain to IDMP and vice versa, which is as well in a revision currently. So that's the main or the core landscape of IDMP. But we have many more standards in the meantime around that. One is about ontology, not the ontology itself, that's Pistoia Alliance, but the framework and the guidance to establish an ontology. We have a core vocabulary to avoid repetition of terminologies across the standards, with the risk that along the revision processes, terminology is changing in one of the standard, and then we don't understand each other well enough. And others. Next slide, please. Here you have a very boring list of the standards which are actual in revision or in ballot. That corresponds a bit to what I said before, so I don't want to enter too much in detail, but it's also good for your reference. ISO TC215 Working Group 6, we are about 130 experts, and there is a lot of work to be done by these experts. Next slide, please. Moving to the components of IDMP. Next slide, please. When I was elected as a convener or chair of this group, as a lawyer, I needed a tool to explain IDMP in a simple way. So we developed together in Work Group 6 this, what we name now a wedding cake. And I'm going to give you some information about the elements of this wedding cake. Can you go to the next slide? The first of these elements is standards 11238. It's about substances. The full text of that standard is very long. But if I say substances, I said already the most, because it is something which is used by the group of Pistoia Alliance we spoke about, and we are going to speak after also about GSRS. But the standard alone, which was published first in 2012, was not sufficient. So we decided in 2016 to develop one technical specification, 19844. And last year we noted that 19844 was over 1,000 pages and a bit complicated to handle for the user. So we decided to split that in smaller pieces. That's the reason why you have the -X. Now we are working on -1 and -2, but there will be, I think, 9 subdivisions for this technical specification, each being very specific on chemicals, on vaccine, on homeopathy, etc. Next slide, please. This is the route of administration. Every country, every jurisdiction has a mean to say this is an injectable, this is a pill, a coated tablet, this is something or something. The committee, we decided that we should converge our efforts to one single way of defining the dose forms, the route of administration and packaging as well, but that was simpler. But the dose form is the most complicated, I think. And for that, the committee decided to make use of EDQM. That's a division of the Council of Europe, which has developed a system with all the dosage form in many, many languages. This has been revised not long ago and is, I would say today, stable. The idea is that existing dose forms can be linked to that central reference to diminish the discrepancy between jurisdictions. Next slide, please. The unit of measurements, that's also something which seems very easy to start with. A gram, a milligram, a kilometer, a centimeter, but actually in the healthcare industry we know that's much more complicated. The tool developed quite a while ago by the Registry Institute in the US, named UCUM, is in the core of this standard. It doesn't have any implementation guide because the tool is clear enough. We are possibly going to revise this standard to be more accurate. It hasn't been revised since 2012, but it meets really the needs of the pharmaceutical industry. Next slide, please. We arrive now to the pharmaceutical products. When you combine the 3 first elements, you have a kind of a recipe to produce a pharmaceutical product. And that pharmaceutical product will be the glue between the different jurisdictions where you find then the medicinal product, which is the green part here. This standard is in revision. We want to make it simpler. We have also, in the meantime, understood that one single place in the world should say the truth about that. And it will be the Uppsala Monitoring Center in Sweden. And they have developed now a lot their system to meet these requirements and to be able to provide the pharmaceutical product identification, in short PHPID, to the user. Next slide, please. And here comes the medicinal product. The medicinal product is actually what is on the market. You see there is a box here, and this is what is going to be marketed. When I started to work in the pharma industry, the data about medicinal product, they were centric to the box. Nowadays, the center is not the box, it's the pharmaceutical product actually. And the box, this retail pack, contains a pharmaceutical product here in terms of pills, but it can be many other things, of course. There is a standard for that also in revision. That's good. You can move to the next. Thank you. Just also for your reference, a couple of definitions from the standards to facilitate the understanding of our audience after this webinar when they want to go a bit more in detail about this concept. The next slide gives you an idea of the hierarchy of the identifier. Can you turn the slide, please? Voila. You see there are relationships between these different identifiers. That is a slide which has been developed with the help of my colleague Jean-Gonzague Fontaine from GSK Vaccine. So you have the pharmaceutical products on the far left, and you see from that the medicinal products, which might have a marketing authorization, but has certainly a packaged medicinal product. Sometimes the marketing authorization is at the level of the packaged medicinal product. And then you have, as a cascade, at the end of the cascade, the barcode data carrier, which enables to scan the product which you have in hand and go up to the pharmaceutical product when it goes about pharmacovigilance with the purpose to document things. Next slide, please. We developed also with Jean-Gonzague Fontaine an annex to this ISO 16701. This is an example from EMA, so European Medicines Agency, centralized authorization. Don't look at this so specifically, but understand that we have, again, these identifier links between each other, and each of them at the very end, so on the right, has another data carrier, a GTIM, which corresponds to an actual product. If you need more, you will read, once the standard will be published in a couple of months, you will read this 16701, which I was co-authoring with colleagues, and I like this document. Okay, next slide, please. The IDMP standards are not standalone. They are not isolated in the healthcare industry. You go on the next slide, you will see just mean to illustrate these interactions. Can you go to the next slide, please? You see on the left of this slide, so ISO TC215, CEN TC251, it's not a mistake, and HL7 below, so the three main standards I mentioned earlier. And then you have in the middle, as an example, CDISC for clinical trials, SNOMED for clinical terminology, GS1 for supply chain activities, and HL7 has, as an extract, you have HL7 version 3, which was I would say, part of the architecture of the early IDMP standard. And now the logo here means fire, because we are moving all that into fire. On the right, you have an idea of the hierarchy and the exchanges. If I start from the bottom, you have the retail pack, and then you go up the level of identification, medicinal product package, the medicinal product, pharmaceutical product, which is a bit above. And for SNOMED, you have the virtual medicinal product, which is not exactly the same as the pharmaceutical product, but has some similarities. So we have some good interaction between that. You go to the next slide, please. As a transition, the next slide is linking us. Next slide, please. Linking us to a web page, because it's an animated page. I think we should skip the link to the web page. For the user, you have here the link on the left. Thank you. But the important thing is you see the journey of this medicinal product. Oh, okay, thank you. And you see on the right some identification here, the pharmaceutical product, and suddenly you have pills appearing where the pharmaceutical product plays a role. If I go in the functions below, let's check adverse event in the middle. From there, yeah, the adverse events, perhaps the green in the middle. And you will see here, no, lower, and you will see how that interacts with the user in the supply chain. So that's procurement, and one level below it will be adverse events, which involves also the consumer or the patient. Okay, let's leave that and come to my conclusion. I'm a bit late, sorry for that. The idea was for me to give you an overview of what IDMP is and how that interacts in a wider landscape with the other standards, with the supply chain, and the regulatory processes. And I hope you have been informed about all that with my couple of slides. And you have also my contact details if you want to meet me virtually or physically. And with that, I give the floor back to Louis.
Christian, thank you so much for this wonderful insight. I do believe that the wedding cake is extremely helpful in getting the message across, and with your experience and how you explained it, I hope that through this webinar series, the wedding cake reaches more people, as we hope to make this viral over time, starting small, but making it big, and that the people across the health ecosystem start to recognize this. Thank you so much for this very clear presentation. With that, we want to go on to Dr. Marlene Kim, a project manager of the Global Drug Substance Database, as such, originally a chemist. She's been involved also in the ISO community as of late, and she's a strong advocate for getting the standardization around chemical structures out there in the world, if you will. As such, she really understands the complexities of GSRS, but I think with what we want to do with the industry, with Pistoia Alliance, create a community, understanding the IDMP logic. And now we go into the more technical details of the GSRS and how it all hinges together. So, Marlene, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Louise. Okay, so now that you have all the background about standardization and GSRS and why it's so important, I'm going to talk about GSRS, the software and the actual interface. So I will go over GSRS's unique ingredient identifiers and how it defines substances in regulated products. Next slide. Okay, this is my disclaimer. Everything I say here is from my own experience and expertise. I don't have any conflicts of interest, and do not construe anything to represent the views or policies of the US FDA. Next. So globalization has spurred an increased number of imported FDA-regulated products and ingredients. It has also driven the growing movement of clinical trials abroad, and the knowledge sharing is essential to tackle globalization's impacts on our nation's public health. And I'm sure many of you have wondered what is in our food and drugs. And for example, will the English name of a substance used by the FDA mean the same thing in another language? And if I buy the same drug, or it looks like the same drug in another country, will it work as the one that is sold in my own country? So these are all important health and safety questions. And the FDA with NIH has developed the global substance registration system to help create these tools, standards, and approaches for uniquely identifying substances in FDA-regulated products. And now all over the world, people and agencies are using GSRS. Next slide. So GSRS, as I mentioned, it was developed in collaboration with NIH and CATS as a registration system for ingredients in medicinal products. And FDA collaborates with NIH and international stakeholders to share the data. On the FDA side, we contribute the regulated substances, products, ingredients, cosmetics, and much more. And at FDA, this is where our registrars are. Next. And my slides are okay. So for centuries, drugs were traditionally classified as small molecules or chemicals or mixtures of chemicals. And our team analyzed substances published by INN from 1984 to 2019 and found that by 2019, more than half of all the new drugs in clinical development were substances other than small molecules. And therefore, codes or identifiers commonly used from other databases like CAS, like CAS numbers, only cover a portion of substances that FDA regulates. Next slide. Okay, I just noticed some of my slides are over inside. Okay. Okay, so beginning in 2006, FDA deployed its version of the substance registration system and implemented the UNII. No other code system met FDA's regulatory needs. It is an alphanumeric identifier linked to molecular structure and descriptive information about the substance. And UNIIs can be generated at any time in the regulatory life cycle for any substance from an animal, from an atom to an organism. So we do have animals in our database. Next slide. Here is a screenshot of the GSRS homepage. Okay. So, and this is our just a quick snapshot of our collaborators and stakeholders. So GSRS, we want to promote interoperability. So some of the people we collaborate or groups are INN, USP, USAM. We have Herman Dietrich and Larry Callahan. They are retired and continue to support us. EDQM, UPSLA Monitoring Center, EMA, Health Canada, and many more. Next. Okay, so why use GSRS? So GSRS is open source. You can find it on GitHub. You can find the software on GitHub, download it, install it yourself. You can install it into your company's server. It's a highly curated database, and we use it, the Unique Ingredient Identifier, as I mentioned earlier. Some of you know that as the UNII, and the models of the substances are based on the ISO standard 11238, the identification of medicinal products. And so it's unique in that it contains substances and products in one knowledge base. So you have chemicals, proteins, nucleic acids, tobacco products, cosmetics. Not all devices, but we have some in there, and foods and drugs. And the native GSRS file is a JSON file that allows us to conserve relationships. Unlike a CSV file, the relationship is linear, but with GSRS, you can find, you can connect an ingredient inside a product and then look for all the other products that have that same ingredient. Next slide. Okay, so are UNIIs required by the FDA? No, it is not required. So GSRS supports mission-critical FDA projects by housing the scientific definition of regulated substances found in regulatory products and much more. So the US FDA also is the only agency that assigns the UNII, but it's not required for all substances. However, FDA requires structured product labeling for drugs, and SPL is the HL7 standard markup language. It's an XML format, and it's the only electronic format for content of labeling. And the ingredients listed are required to have a UNII. So are UNIIs required? No, but in certain regulations, they require the ingredients have a UNII. And the reason is because the UNII eliminates the ambiguity caused by names and synonyms. So here, if you need a UNII, you go to GSRS and you search for the substance and you get the UNII, and then you put it in your submission. Next, please. Okay, so here's all the regulations. You can read it on your own time. Next. Okay, so how do you access GSRS? There are many ways. One, if you only need the name or you just need like its associate CAS number, you could go to precisionfda.gov and use the UNII search service. There, you just type in a name and you get different options. You just pick the right one. Another way is to use the public GSRS interface hosted by NCATS. And then if you want to go even further, you want to register a substance or use almost the same interface as we use at FDA, and you want to securely share data with GSRS staff, then you go to Precision FDA, where we have an instance of GSRS within that portal. And then if you're a developer, you can go to the GSRS NCATS.nih.gov page, and there it'll give you instructions on how to install GSRS on your own workstation. Next. Okay, so here is a just a snapshot of the UNII search service on Precision FDA. On there, you type in the name that you're looking for, and then it will auto-populate different names that we have in our database. And then you click the right one, and then it will reveal the UNII and all the synonyms associated with it. Next. Here's an example of when you have to be careful. So if you're a chemist and you're used to using CAS number, you know that, okay, I want to look for a polymer, and you just take the CAS number, and this CAS number represents the monomers and the general idea of this polymer. In GSRS, we only register real things. We don't register well, we have concepts, but only real things get UNIIs, things that have been physically characterized. Okay, so if you're looking for something such as hypromellose, you will need more information, such as its viscosity or how many monomers it has. And from that, you'll find the right one. And this is important for things such as excipients or cosmetic products, where the size of the polymer can impact the overall product, like what it looks like. It can make the difference between a lotion and a cream. Next. And I must just put in a plug for Precision FDA. In Precision FDA, you can privately share the substance information with the GSRS staff in a secure environment. times when you would want to use this is if you have a large nucleic acid file or a large protein that's very complicated and you need our help in filling out the form. What you do is you go to Precision FDA, you can use the form and then request a space, a private space, and communicate with the staff directly. Next, please. Okay, so how do you get access? So go to precisionfda.gov, request access, fill out the form, and email fda-srs@fda.hhs.gov to request access to the privately shared space. You make sure you indicate privately shared space. We'll create a space, and from there, we move forward. Next. Now, what are the minimal requirements to become a record? One is the definition that describes the substance. This is the reference, such as one that includes maybe the mass spec, the sequence, the taxonomy. We need to know what is this thing. It needs a unique name or code, and then the defined composition or classification, such as the chemical structure, nucleic acid sequence. Those are the minimal requirements. Next. Here is a screenshot of the chemical registration form. And again, you need a reference, you need a name and the chemical structure. And within the form, you can check for duplicates, enter in more information, but at a minimum, if you have the three, you can click validate and submit. If you're using Precision FDA, though, you will have to download the form and then share it with the GSRS staff within the Precision FDA portal. Next. Now, some of you may be wondering, okay, you have all this data, but how clean is the data? Well, we go through 3 stages of curation. The first stage is it needs to have the minimal registration requirements, the definitional reference, name, defined composition, or classification. After that, stage 2, the software itself has a validator that checks the fields, the names, and it looks for errors, and it will display errors or warning messages. If there's an error, you have to fix it before you submit. If it's a warning, it's telling you to double check what you put in. Once it's submitted, it actually goes to an actual person, someone but it can't be the same person who created the record. They will review it, cross-check the information, cross-reference, update the record if needed, they'll approve, and it will get a UNII. If there's anything, if there are any discrepancies about the substance, the staff will contact you directly. Next. Now, the interface. So when you go to GSRS, there's many buttons, many ways you can search and use this for your research or just to browse. So at the top, in the yellow, you can browse just different types of substances. We have a search. You can do an advanced search, a bulk search, a structure search, sequence search, and you can also just search by names. Next page. And here's also just a snapshot of some of the filters available. You can, when you go to browse substances, you can filter by chemical, by mixture, by group 1 specified substances. You could also group by the type of product this substance will become, such as a cosmetic or pesticide or device. Next. And these are additional filters. So if you are looking for a chemical, you can drill down even further to the type of moiety. Is it a salt? Is it ionic? Is it a fragment? The molecular weight, and stereochemistry. Next. And what's unique to GSRS is, as I mentioned before, it conserves relationships using JSON. And this enables us to capture the substance and all other substances related to it. For desflurane, in there we have a record for the racemic substance. And then we have one for the R form and the S form. And we can also capture if it is an impurity or metabolites or its metabolites and what products it's in. Next. When you click on this structure, on the left pane, here are some of these are the sections. And at the top, this is just basic information about the record, the UNII, its version, and the definitional reference. And of course, in the upper right-hand corner is the UNII. Next. And as I mentioned before, we capture relationships. So here, if you go to relationships section, you can see the enantiomer to its racemate and then backwards. And you can also see what impurities are found in products that have desflurane. Next. Okay, and we have proteins in GSRS. Proteins encompass biologics, peptides, protein receptors, enzymes, and again, it captures all the relationships that I mentioned above. And it also captures synonyms, which are extremely important. Next. Now, in the protein record, the sections are just slightly different because for proteins, we have the subunits. We have glycosylation, we have substance modifications that are critical for its critical to have for its definition. We input what is the protein type. There's a subunit, and here for the substance modification, we want to know what type of modification, which residue was modified, is it partially or is this modification found throughout the whole entire structure? And then we also capture the substance it was modified with. Next. We capture nucleic acid, the DNA, the RNA, the plasmids. And for example, here we have tolfersin, but then we also have tolfersin sodium because one is a substance and then one is an ingredient inside a product. Next. How am I on time? Okay, I'm still good. Also, so in the top record, we indicate if it's an oligonucleotide. On the side, you can zoom into its subunits, its sugars, nucleic acid linkages, and substance modifications. Next. Okay. And this is unlike other databases that will store the genes or the sequences, we will show the structure of the sugars. We will describe in depthly the linkages, and we include the modification. And again, you can see what the modification looks like. Next. We also have structurally diverse. This is an interesting model because it includes plants, animals, microbes, and parts of the organism. Here, the example I have is SARS-CoV-2, and we also have all the different synonyms. It could be like people use to describe it. Next. And so this is a virus, and because viruses don't fall into the other categories, so this is where we put it, and we also capture the parts of the virus, which in relationships there are many there, and if maybe it's on the next slide. Next. Oh, okay, like go back. But if you were to search this in GSRS, you can see the targets, the different parts of the virus, all captured in the relationships section. Okay, next. Okay, so I've covered what is GSRS, the importance of the UNII, why we use the UNII, and when you need to use it in your submissions. Covered the how to search the database, how to share data with the FDA, and now if you need help. We are constantly updating our software, and if you ever find bugs or you need help, please reach out. We also want to know if there's something wrong, because what we don't want you to do is get frustrated and then give up, okay? Because that doesn't help anyone. So if you need help looking for UNII or search by name, go to Precision FDA, use the UNII search. If you want to search the database, you can use the NCAT's public site or use the GSRS within Precision FDA. And if you need help, email fda-srs@fda.hhs.gov. I promise it goes to a real person. If we don't answer, it's because we're really busy, but we do see it. Just email us again. And there you can obtain a UNII for a substance. You can request UNII for a complex substance, but please include the technical document from the manufacturer if you have it. Don't just say, I need a UNII for sunflower. We want to know what part of the sunflower seed, is it an extract? So give us as much information as you can. And also, if you have questions about JSON formatting, contact us. And I also would like to lastly just thank our team of multidisciplinary experts. We have a program manager, Tyler Perrier, our registrar team, Frank, D'Amica, Marianne Siva, myself, Karen, Christina Trang. So this is our registrar team. We have a few more, but this is it. We don't have 100 people. And then our development team, Evie, Sarah, George, Ramez, Li Hui, Mitch, Archana, Alex, Aruna. So together we call ourselves GSRS, but we are from NCATS and FDA and from collaborators around the world. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. It's an extensive amount of information that you are conveying here today. I think it's probably best to immediately go to the panel discussion next. I'm sure that we can have an interesting discussion there. In the panel, there will be the speakers, Birte, Christian, and Marlene, yourself. So I would request all the panel members to switch on the cameras. Additionally, in the panel, we would have Marcel, but I believe Marcel had to log off earlier, so he will be there for next time. Igor, Olaf, and Jean-Jacques, please, if you go to the camera as such. So, let's see, is Olaf there? Srinidhi, if you can, please also come online, and Joe, you might have to leave early, but please participate. I'll try to kick it off with one question, and I bring it to you, Marlene, first after finishing this GSRS conversation. We met in the ISO meetings, I think, for the first time in Amsterdam, and we were in Oslo while together. Being so involved in the GSRS, in the technology part, and coming fresh into the IDMP meetings and etc. What do you see as the connection and the purpose of how GSRS and IDMP are linked? Why does it matter from your professional experience?
Very tough question for someone new. So GSRS is such a great platform to use for an IDMP and ISO because one, it's free. We make it available to everyone. It's open source, and we also take suggestions and feedback from collaborators and even just an average person who wants to use it just to handle their database. And by using GSRS, if companies use GSRS, it also makes it easier for us within FDA to know what substance you're talking about. And around the world, we have many different languages, different spellings. And if we can use one common language or UNII to describe the substance, it just makes everything a lot easier, more efficient, and we get better quality data.
Thank you, Marleen. I would extend the question to Marcel, since you're still there. That's great. From your experience within the CBG and working in these type of environments, how do you relate to this and what Marleen is sharing?
Well, the good thing, I guess, about GSRS, the GSRS system, is that we can capture substances in their full, let's say, structural information, and I guess that's important. Then we can also look at the relevant aspects. We also know the differences between the different registered products and substances. But also, if an applicant now provides the information to our FDA colleagues, they can actually use the same system to provide this information to us. So, and that's also why it's important to get a broader take-up of the GSRS system, and we know that more regulators are considering GSRS as their system, and I think that will also save a lot of time and effort on the applicant side. Thanks.
So do you have a feeling, Marcel, when you say that on what the adoption is across regulators? If you look from your experience in the Netherlands, in Europe, other European countries, EMA, in relation to the FDA?
Well, at EMA, we've rolled out EU SRS, and so internally we are handling the substances through that system, and we have to roll out a system in which the applicants can supply us in the same format as they can with FDA. And I also know that Saudi FDA is considering it GSRS as a system. They're working with it, and EDQM. So there are more regulators around the world considering this system. Thanks.
You mentioned the point, right, on how to get the data in there into the systems. Do you see initiatives? Do you see that partners of the open source GSRS open source community maybe to contribute to easier exchange with the drug authorities?
I can see definitely an advantage, and I think if there was such a collaboration and have this as an open source, that would be very helpful to everyone, because we've got EU SRS and the FDA has got GSRS. So if people can fill it in an open source system and provide us with the data in that format, that would be great.
Yeah. That's that's very good for people to understand where it is going to. This was the introduction. Thank you, Berthe and Christian and Marleen. I think in the next webinar, we will be talking about the pragmatic experience that, for example, the UPSA Monitoring Center has along with GSK. Maybe on the third webinar, we can talk more about the experiences from a regulatory perspective. Marcel, maybe that is something listening to this session today. Are you getting thoughts about what you want to communicate more from a value perspective? I would ask that to myself first, and then I come back to you, Marleen, with the same question. And maybe with your colleagues, Marleen, talk about the importance from the regulatory perspective. Marcel?
Well, I guess for us as regulators, if we are getting this data, let's say in a standardized way, also, of course, it will help you already in setting up your module 3 aspects much more clearly, because in module 3 you've got to provide this information. If it's already there in a standardized way in your own system, so I guess it would be helpful for companies to use a GSRS system themselves as well. That would save a lot of let's say exchange between now, let's say translating from module 3 to submission of substance data separately. So I think in that sense there's something that to be gained. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcel. Marleen? How would you, yeah, please.
What was the question again? Can you repeat it?
So, yeah, I'm asking Marcel, from a regulatory perspective, how important this is that companies and people are using the GSRS. And Marcel spoke about it when they have the data already on substance level. It's easier to go to that module 3 part that is mandatory. How do you see that cross collaboration evolving within your ecosystem?
So, I mean, as someone who used to assist with reviewing module 3, I would say ever since we started requesting standardized data, it has helped tremendously in saving the reviewers time. They can focus more on the review. We don't have to send as many deficiency letters. Now we have a UNII for the substance. The agency as a whole can see how all the substances are related. They don't have to redraw the structures. And we could also do research with the information. It just makes everyone's job much more easier. And previously we had they were working towards a PQ CMC initiative, and the UNII was going to be included, and it would allow JSON. That is a little on hold right now, but I think this is a good time for us to pick that up and move it forward. But we could talk more about that another day.
Thank you, Marleen. Christian, if I may ask you, you said in the context with the IDMP and from the health informatics, I believe you see the GSRS a little bit at arm's length, so objective. How would you connect the dots between the logic and the technology for industry, Christian? And why does it matter?
Oh, it is extremely important. So, I see that's relatively easy again. Easy in the sense that we have an ISO standard and technical specification, which is, they both are very complicated to implement. And we have now a tool, GSRS, which helps the implementation, let's say, conform to the standard. So that is supporting, I would say, the best possible implementation by diverse actors, such as a regulator, but also industry, for instance. And this supports to be really following the standard. So it's a very interesting tool. Without that, I think we would be facing huge quantities of efforts everywhere to try to be compliant, and with a high risk not to be compliant in the same way. So I see GSRS as a tool really helping us, helping the communities to converge in the implementation of the standard. Another point which is for me very important is that we spoke about Uppsala Monitoring Center. They are also using GSRS, and they are going to allocate the worldwide substance identifier. We have heard from Marlene, the Americans, they have the UNII, the Europeans have their own way. I don't know which countries, say Switzerland has another way to give an identification to the substance. But even if the description and the structure of the substance, described structure, is the same, there might be some uncertainties. And that's why Uppsala, using the same tool, will contribute also to the consistency of the data and the identifier across the globe. So all
that's a very good segue to as an introduction to the next webinar. Thank you, Christian, for that. Birte, as the Pistoia Alliance person in the middle, trying to herd the cats in the industry, hearing these presentations both from Christian from ISO and Marlene talking about the pragmatic parts of the GSRS. What do you see as the challenges to get to a good consortium as such?
Yeah, there are certainly challenges. I think, we will hear from Jean-Gonzague at the next webinar. And I think the approach that GSK took, sort of implementing GSRS under their IDMP program, is something that definitely could be shared as good practice. And I think that that is one of the challenges, right? Getting companies to implement the tool. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that there are other challenges, right? GSRS perhaps is seen as a tool, for the regulators, created by the regulators. But as Jean-Gonzague is going to show at the next webinar, that's not true, right? There is a lot of value for the pharma companies to structure their substance data and use this system. So I think that we're definitely going to see that.
Yeah, no, I fully agree that only that way the data flows, and it's the same data as such. Igor, listening to these presentations today, what are your main takeaways, and what do you think would be important discussion topics moving forward? You're on mute. Okay. Oh, Igor, we can't hear you. Igor, we see you speak, but we don't hear you. Is it just me?
No, Louis, we can't hear Igor.
Igor, yeah, we cannot hear you, unfortunately.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
now we can.
Yeah. Okay. one important a property of the GSRS is because it's open source, it's possible to integrate the system into the very complicated modern system landscape. Because in every registrator has own legacy system, existing system, which need to be take data from substance information system like GSRS and use it for product registration example. And data between all this system need to be transferred. GSRS needs some data from product system needs some data from GSRS system. And because GSRS is open source, it's possible to integrate this system into the with the other systems. We can extend it. We can add additional modules, which will take data from existing databases, put data into existing system. And this is why GSRS, this is actually possible because GSRS open source. In our system, we have such an integration. I've made this for BfArM. It's a German agency for medicinal product registration. We have integration with existing product management system. In the EMA, we working on integration with the SMS, with exchanging data with the SMS, taking data from SMS, putting data into SMS. So, yeah.
I think you pointed out one of the main challenges is that every drug authority needs to have their own technology into shape, and there's many regulatory authorities around the world, right? And they are not all equally equipped as such. So possibly one of the benefits of an open source GSRS community is that the platform evolves to the benefit of both the regulatory authorities as well as the industry, and that they have a similar way of organizing the data as they develop drug products and can easily exchange. Surely we should be able to arrive maybe together with the Pistoia Alliance on what are then the subsequent standards, let's say, on how the data is structured within the GSRS and how the exchange is being done. If we can give guidelines on a more technical level and in the open source community, those could be realized, then it would become much more accessible to many institutes around the world and companies as well. Isn't that so, Igor?
And GSRS can be extended. This is great things about GSRS. If you need some new features, which is not implemented right now, you can implement it yourself, and then it can be shared with the other peoples, which may be facing the same problem as you, and this can be used in in other environments. But with your solution, we can actually multiply this effort. If we have more developers, then we can share this experience and have more effort.
Thank you, Igor, for that. We are at the end of the time, at least for the participants as such, but we still have a few questions. So we will entertain these additional questions and then finish off. Thank you so much for your contribution there. So one question that for the panel that comes up here. Can the panel discuss the benefits to a manufacturer of organizing or structuring data to the IDMP standards and using a platform such as the GSRS? So what would be the benefit to a drug product manufacturer? Who would like to take that on?
So we do have a form that we, as group for specified substance manufacturing. So actually that form is used internally. The CASA team uses it, and it helps them database the synthetic scheme. So in the future, you don't have to just go open up your software and just draw the structure. You have the database, and if you want to make a change, just add it in there, and you could always go back to it at any time, and you could search for it within GSRS.
Yeah. So there's things that you already have in the FDA such as tools that potentially can go in the open source community and then become to the benefit of manufacturers as well. One question here, and I think the question has been answered, but a simple example is how to combine all the 5 standards and arrive at the final representation would be very helpful. Well, that brings it back to me, is the wedding cake question. Maybe, do you have an anecdote on how the wedding cake came about? I think it will be very interesting for the people to understand on how you came to such a logical and simple representation of this complex matter.
Oh, that's very simple. I have a good graphist. So I explained him what I understood, and we had a brainstorm, and he produced a first version, which was not good, and the second version, which is this one. It's not, no. Actually, to explain the wedding cake, you need to understand, I would say at very high level, how IDMP works. Of course, the details are not covered in this representation, and it's not the purpose. And I saw there is a question to have a simple example how these elements are combined to come to a product at the end of the day. Well, I don't have that on hand, I must say, but I think if that's colleagues who wants a simple example, with the wedding cake, I should be able to explain. Without, I cannot.
Thank you, Christian.
I don't have a receipt another way.
No receipt for the cake. But recipes, by the way, should also go in the GSRS, right? What the recipes of the drug products, that is.
Yeah. We have developed a few other graphics, and I may recommend the use of a brochure which we developed in the context of Unicom, a European project. I may send you the link to that brochure, which exists in a few languages, so we can disseminate. And you have examples, dummy examples, of course, but you have examples on how that works.
Thank you, Christian. I think we will wrap it up now. Maybe a last statement from the panel members to the audience on why one needs to pay attention to this. Srinidhi, you've not spoken yet, so why are you on it, right? Why does it matter?
So Louis, I think there are enough experts who have spoken about it, but I think my simple takeaway is when we talk about the exchanging the information, especially from one geographical area to the other, there's a lot of, how would I say, the same thing has been told in multiple ways, and there's always lost in translation, so as to speak. At least the basic aspect of the human safety or the patient safety, when we talk about, if people understand irrespective of language what we are talking about, I think overall the scenario would be much better. That is just from one part of it. But I think from a drug development aspect as well, I think everybody who has worked in pharma industry would agree that this is one of the most complex supply chain or the end-to-end value chain, so as to speak. To bring all these things together, I think it is a Herculean task, but at the same time, once a consortium like this will actually do it, life will become a lot more simpler. I think without going into the technicalities, I can actually mention something like that.
Thank you, Srinidhi. Birte, your last insights for today into this matter.
Yeah, I think, having these discussions are very important, right? I think, we have to create communities. We have to have these discussions. The consortium will then be able to address not only regulatory needs, but also industry needs, right? And that's what we need to sort of ultimately accelerate GSRS adoption across the entire sector. So thank you for facilitating this discussion. This is very helpful.
Thank you, Birte. And maybe it is a good time to say that tomorrow there is another Zoom call through Pistoia as a follow-up to the GSRS meeting in person in London. So I think people will be able to find the link on LinkedIn, but we will distribute it again so more people can participate in the discussion there as well. Thank you, Birte.
Thank you.
Igor, a final thoughts from your end?
I think it's very important to join efforts from many different people groups, from industry, from agencies, from developer, because every of this group has own interests in the system. But this system as a central point of the information can be from agency be a very solid base to manage products. For industry, it can be a simplified way to register products, to search information about products. For developer, it's a very good system where we can start to integrate the system into existing systems with the existing systems. And if we have such a discussing platform, then we can find better way, right direction, how this system will be developed in the future. And to cover all these needs, different needs and functions.
Thank you, Igor. There's this cross collaboration amongst many disciplines in order to get to the best outcome. Thank you. Marlene, your final thoughts from after today?
So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to attending the future webinars and maybe even giving more. I love data, and if we work together, it would make all of our lives and our work easier.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what is make our lives easier, but make the patient lives better.
Yes, yes.
So thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for participating. I just want to point out, if people click on the meeting chat, you will find a link that Christian just has shared, IDP in the capsule. I think there's an interesting deck created in the ecosystem of healthcare with Unicum. More information at people's fingertips. Thank you, panel members and speakers today for your contribution. We look forward to the next session, which is about pragmatic experiences in about a month's time. I wish everybody a good day, good evening, good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.